Paging Dr. Welby. You've got a patient with a serious case of nostalgia. Symptoms include reciting your best quotes and kicking off a whole series marathon. Suggested prescription, a thorough deep dive into the secrets of one of the best medical dramas of all time. Marcus Welby, MD. I'm your surgeon, Nostalgic Nick. And today's a good day to return to a show that blazed the way for such hits like St. Elsewhere and ER. So what made Marcus Welby, MD so wildly popular? And how did this pleasant chart topper also get people protesting in the streets? If you enjoyed this episode, please smash that thumbs up icon for us. And subscribe to the channel for more retro TV. But without further ado, let's get to the facts. Stat. Humble beginnings. Stick to what you know. That's the philosophy for show creator David Victor, who was the supervising producer for Dr. Kildare, the early 60s hit NBC medical drama. His experience was well placed and helped rocket ABC from the weakest of the networks to an actual champion against NBC and CBS.
Hey, don't you have any patience, Dr. Welby?
Hi.
Viewers first met Welby in March of 1969 in a TV movie pilot, but despite the odd start, it was well received, and ABC promptly ordered a season and a proper start in September of that year. And Robert Young was the perfect choice for the series' lead. Heck, he just played a doctor for one episode of Dr. Kildare, and his previous long stay on TV was Father Knows Best, where he played another kind paternal figure. Bedside Manner. A physician named Sir William Osler, one of the most influential and beloved physicians of all time, basically created the pairing of a doctor as an aristocrat, a person that patients were expected to trust. The doctor could be polite, but no one was really policing his behavior. In other words, bedside manner optional. And today we see that persona played out on TV constantly, the best example being the irascible and fictional TV Dr. Gregory House.
Why don't you want to treat me anymore?
I never wanted to treat you.
But this is the antithesis of Dr. Marcus Welby, who stood out for prioritizing bedside manner just as much as treating the patient. In the 70s, medical dramas were more about a doctor's career and being ambitious. But again, not Welby. He was kind of like the Mr. Rogers of the hospital, remembering everyone's name and allowing himself to not just be a doctor, but also a helper. And all this was against the backdrop of specialized medicine on the rise, when different niche experts tended to their specific field and called it a day. Marcus Welby once again defied these new rising specialists. The Peacekeeper.
He's in there, stoned out of his head, tripping out on the medicine cabinet.
We better get home.
And spank his bottom and tell him he's naughty.
Marcus Welby, MD, pitted two outlooks against each other. The professional but stiff approach of young Dr. Stephen Kiley, played by the great James Brolin, versus the fatherly attitude of Dr. Welby. Thankfully, they had a helpful mediator in Consuelo Lopez, the nurse and office assistant, played wonderfully by Elena Verdugo. And Verdugo's performance was widely praised and earned her 2 Emmy nominations for a supporting role.
Was that Dr. Welby?
No, that was Pancho Villa.
And she also broke some barriers. In fact, it's considered the first network television portrayal of a working professional Latina woman. Verdugo came to the series after becoming a famous femme fatale in westerns and horrors. And Marcus Welby also saw the early origins of many directors, including Harry Falk and even Steven Spielberg. In really his first big gig aside from self-produced shorts, he directs the 24th episode of season 1. Looks familiar. Gee, Wally, that looks like a bad injury. Good thing we don't have to go far. That's because the coming-of-age series Leave It to Beaver was idyllic from the inside out, including that quaint home of theirs. So perfect, the exterior was reused as the outside of Dr. Welby's own office. Apparently, the good doctor works in Mayfield. And for more on Mayfield, we have a whole Leave It to Beaver episode too, so check that one out next. But that means by extension, Dr. Welby's office was used as a set piece for Adam 12, and even the 1959 feature film The Shaggy Dog. Controversy. Generally, Marcus Welby was the doctor people wanted to see, except some of his advice rubbed people the wrong way.
Shall I tell you why you're heavier? You've been cheating. Munch, chump,
Gobble.
Season 4 episode The Other Martin Loring had a man battling alcoholism, depression, obesity, and diabetes, all while his marriage was falling apart. And when Welby investigates, he realized Martin was gay, but the doctor says that Martin isn't actually gay, but afraid he is. And all that stress caused his depression, but Welby told him he can live a, quote, normal life. Well, the script was leaked to LGBT groups early in that year. Representatives of the Gay Activists Alliance met with ABC execs and expressed their worry, fearing people would associate being gay with being ill. There were pickets and sit-ins, and even calls for a boycott. But the episode aired anyway with a few minor edits due to the conversation. But this wouldn't be the show's last brush with controversy. The outrage. In season 6, viewers met Ted Blakely, a survivor of sexual assault. His attacker was his science teacher, Bill Swanson, and things got dicey when an officer basically told Ted that this didn't make him gay, and that he was still, quote, a real man. Well, execs and activists both learned some lessons from old Martin Loring in season 4, and after collecting statistics about sexual assault in LA, ABC sent the rough draft to the National Gay Task Force, who told them this was a problem, with a huge connection between being gay and pedophilia. And so the network changed everything. No, of course, they ignored this and went ahead with the plot anyway. And organizers learned from last time and launched a nationwide campaign for change. Finally, ABC made some changes by showing the messy legal web that attackers got tangled in. But protesters still didn't like some of the language. And also at this time, several states were voting on anti-discrimination laws. So the protesters contacted sponsors. 7 sponsors and 17 network affiliates cut ties with the show. And in 1974, this was the first time network partners pulled back from an episode because of protests. To an extent, even tackling dicey topics like this was a result of a cultural shift in America. Counterculture was on the rise, along with people questioning authority and confronting topics that were taboo. The healing power of media. Is TV an escape from the world, or is it a validating mirror to teach and build companionship? Well, for Robert Young, it was both. He lived with a chemical imbalance that contributed to his own alcoholism and depression. To fight this, he chose a holistic approach, not unlike what his TV persona would prescribe.
See, there's just no simple way to explain it to the layman.
In fact, his peers would say they couldn't tell who they'd be talking to, Young or Welby. Young publicly held Welby in high esteem, along with his philosophies, and fans treated him just like they would the TV doctor, sending him thousands of letters asking for advice on just about everything. And the winner is, doctors are trained to handle any illness and situation. And right off the bat, that's what Welby did, tackling subjects like depression, STDs, learning disabilities, AIDS, leukemia, and much more. And for each episode, the writers consulted with the American Academy of Family Physicians to ensure that everything was as accurate as possible. And boy, did viewers eat that right up, so much so that by its second season, Marcus Welby was already at #1 in the Nielsen ratings. Not only a huge accomplishment for any show, but this was ABC's very first series to top the list. And of course, the show wouldn't have flown so high without its cast, and they were fittingly rewarded too. Both Young and Brolin netted Emmy Awards, and Young an additional Golden Globe. The series, the actors, and the cinematographer all took home trophies for its first season of the show. Too good a doc? Marcus Welby hooked viewers with a giant library of topics and the most approachable personality, but it turned out he was a little too good at his job. Recall, there was a divide in opinions about how a doctor should behave, and in turn what patients should expect from them. And Dr. Welby certainly set the bar quite high. Some doctors of that age actively disliked the show, specifically its title character, for being so gentle and too fatherly, as those doctors were constantly getting asked by their patients why they weren't more like Welby. And so began the first assembly of doctors to approach how to deal with the guy on TV who made them look too good or bad. I don't know, you decide.
You're a snob, Steve.
Once a doctor actually confronted Young about not being as professional as Welby, and Young replied, quote, "Maybe you're not." Now, a few doctors today also credit Marcus Welby for inspiring them to pursue medicine, so the whole debate is still under evaluation. The doctor is no longer in the house. By later seasons, Marcus Welby wasn't the only medical drama on the block, and several were getting a bit tired by the mid-70s. General Hospital, Medical Center, and The Doctors all saw a dip in ratings, and so did Marcus Welby MD. Of course, it was still pretty well loved, just not enough for new content. So the early episodes went into syndication, except under the name Robert Young Family Doctor, and the wonderful program came to an end, wrapping up its 170th episode in 1976. Dr. Welby may have hung up his stethoscope, but we can always enjoy the many cases he and his team faced. The series had its ups and downs as it pushed new boundaries, and it's become a major influence in every medical drama that has come after. So let's talk. Do you remember a specific episode's case that you enjoyed? Did you usually side with either doctor as you listened to Dr. Welby and Dr. Kiley debate? Well, share your own memories in the comments below. We read them all. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up icon for us. And subscribe to the channel so you'll get your next dosage of nostalgia. But from all of us here at Do You Remember, thank you very much for watching.